Robert Mueller testified before the House Judiciary Committee, and during his testimony and during the line of questioning that we heard from both Democrats and Republicans, I asked myself, how is this gonna play out for the public? What are the optics? Is this gonna help in any way, shape, or form? And I was not happy with it, and I wasn't the only one. In fact, let's go to Chris Wallace. Here's his brief analysis of today's events.
I think this has been a disaster for the Democrats, and I think it's been a disaster for the reputation of Robert Mueller. He has seemed very uncertain with his brief. He doesn't seem to know what things that are in the report, attacked a number of times, and you would think that almost anybody else would have defended his own integrity and the integrity of the investigation, and over Mueller just sits silent and allows the attacks from the Republicans to sweep over him and says nothing. The strongest, Martha, by far was John Ratcliffe, a Republican congressman on the committee, who basically said, your big grand conclusion when it comes to obstruction is you can't exonerate him. When did that become a legal principle that a prosecutor can't exonerate anybody? You're innocent until proven guilty, so you either prove him guilty or you shut up. And you're making a point about I didn't exonerate him.
He's not above the law, but he's not below the law either.
That was dumb.
So, no, was it dumb though?
Yeah, both of the last two things were dumb.
Oh, the last part.
The legal principle thing and then the below the law thing, whatever that was, both were dumb.
I didn't even pay attention to the above the law, below the law part. But I think that there were points made by Chris Wallace that were actually accurate. I do think that today's testimony was a disaster for Democrats. I think that they attempted to use this as political theater and failed to do so. There were certain moments where Democrats proved to be strong, like Representative Ted Lieu from California. He came prepared. He provided specific instances of obstruction of justice coming from the report. But I also think that Chris Wallace is correct in that you had one Republican after the other punching Robert Mueller in the face, and he didn't defend himself. They made him out to be this biased political operative who was out to get Donald Trump. Now, we know that that's not true. We know that's not the case. This was a 22-month investigation that did not exonerate Donald Trump, especially when it came to obstruction of justice. And he didn't want to be there. It was clear he didn't want to be there. He wanted the report to speak for itself. All the evidence and all of his findings were in the report. And the whole point here is, all right, I did the investigation. That was my task. I'm not allowed to indict the president, but this evidence can be given to lawmakers and they can make a decision about what to do with it. And the decision that Nancy Pelosi, as the Democratic Speaker of the House, has made is, I don't want to do an impeachment inquiry because it's not politically popular. It's going to hurt us strategically as the 2020 election approaches.
Yeah, and again, that goes to, his unwillingness to counter some of the ridiculous claims that were put to him. The Republicans were sort of tripping over each other to dredge up ridiculous stuff from 4chan and Breitbart and just throw conspiracy theories at him. And he wasn't interested in saying, I don't believe that's an accurate characterization of what actually happened. He would say that very rarely. Often he would just either sit there or he'd say, I can't speak to that. But sometimes you need to speak to something when someone is attempting to deceive the public. And he didn't want to do that, which again makes him, according to the Republicans, the head of a coup who's incredibly apathetic about it actually succeeding.
So not only does it hurt his own reputation, but the way that it appears to a lot of people, myself included, is that he's just complicit in everything that's going on. Why are you not, in the very least, defending yourself against these mischaracterizations coming from GOP lawmakers? Why? Why wouldn't you at least do that? And so, and I think that there was actually a great question asked in that last clip, and in the last segment that we did on this. Why follow this OLC memo? Why? Why?
Because it's written down in ink.
Who cares?
I don't know. Them, apparently, very serious, responsible people.
Imagine a world where the tables are turned and you have a Democrat sitting in office who had clearly obstructed justice.
Protected, OLC.
Yeah, you think the Republicans are gonna be like,
shield, like Captain America, can't get to him.
This is a memo from the OLC. We're gonna follow through with the memo. We're just gonna drop it. We're gonna leave it alone. We're gonna do a 22-month investigation, spend millions of dollars on it, and then that's it. No, Republicans wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. They would do multiple investigations. I mean, it's incredible to me that everyone's a loser in this story, everyone. Robert Mueller, conspiracy theorist Republicans, incredibly pathetic and weak Democrats. What was this?
People who've been trying to undermine the investigation for literally years. Everybody. Yeah, the whole country's full of losers actually at this point. It's like one of those Vox articles, 327 million losers and 0 winners from this presidency. That's really what's going on. And as you point out, Mueller should care. Like he understands that precedents are being set right now, and he's like, I should have stopped at Starbucks. I should have gotten some coffee because I got nothing right now. It matters. At the end, he worked up a little bit of energy where he said that he really hopes that the foreign intervention in our election hasn't been normalized, but he fears that it has been. As if he's not instrumental in sort of, at least to some extent, deciding if that happens or not. Trump continuing as president ensures that foreign intervention will happen in this next election. He knows that, but he doesn't want to get involved. He just doesn't care. And by the way, I sort of love that, like we're focused on obstruction because it's really clear and everything. And the stuff about whether there's a criminal conspiracy, he says there's not enough evidence to indict, although acknowledging that the massive obstruction of course modifies that, but we never know and maybe there wasn't any. But there definitely was intervention. That stuff was rock solid in there. And everybody's just like, whatever. I mean, there've been people denying for 2 years that anything actually happened, and now it comes out in the actual report, not speculation, not some random article or something like that. And everybody's like, we already knew that.
Okay, so I want to
didn't feel like it. Didn't feel like we already knew that for 2 years.
We need to talk about Pelosi a little longer. And establishment Democrats who have decided, or who had decided, to put all their eggs in this basket, in this Mueller investigation basket. They're like, you know what, we're not gonna focus too much on the hush money payments. We're not gonna focus on how Trump has used his charitable foundation to enrich himself. We're not gonna focus on all the financial conflicts of interest. You know, all the other things. Insurance fraud, tax fraud, inflating his assets to save on taxes, deflating his assets in order to do fraud and obtain loans that he shouldn't have obtained. I mean, we're gonna ignore all of that and we're gonna focus on this investigation. Okay, cool. So the investigation happens, 22 months. And you have the evidence indicating that Trump attempted to obstruct justice at least 10 times. So why isn't Nancy Pelosi opening an impeachment inquiry? I don't understand. And her whole political calculation as this Democratic genius, as the establishment makes her out to be, is, well, look, if we attempt to impeach, he would be exonerated by the Senate, which of course is dominated by Republicans. Okay, fair enough. But what was today about? Because today didn't help. So to the average American, today was no different than attempting to impeach Donald Trump, right? And so think about that for a second, right? So it's not labeled as impeachment, but what is the thought process of the average American? Get yourself out of this, like every day we're constantly focusing on the media and what's happening in politics. Get yourself out of that bubble and think of yourself as someone who has a completely different job, who does not have the time or the resources to be hyper-focused on the news and what's happening in politics. What is the takeaway from this testimony?
In terms of that?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Democrats are going after Trump. It looks like it's been unfair. It looks like it's politically slanted. And it looks like Trump's innocent. I mean,
well, he keeps saying
it. He keeps saying he's exonerated.
And Mueller's not really saying anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like your political calculation sucks.
Yeah.
And it's pathetic and it's sad that this has been the only focus for 22 months and all the eggs were put in this basket and this basket was broken from the get-go. It had a giant hole in the bottom. The eggs are gone, they're broken, okay?
We don't have any eggs. Yeah, this is a sad day and a string of sad days for anybody who wants the president to be constrained by checks and balances or something like the law. Yeah. I mean, there are so many people who deserve to be put on the list of the people who have ensured that future presidents, whether it's a second term of Donald Trump or some Democrat or Ted Cruz or God knows who, will be free to break the law however they want. There won't be a special counsel because the very concept of one has been so tainted now. If there is one, they can just fire him. They can meddle with the witnesses. They can refuse to be interviewed. They can refuse to give over documents. There will be either no investigation or certainly no justice for any criminality by the president. And a lot of people are responsible for that. Nancy Pelosi has signed her name in big bold letters to that. I would say the people that set up this horrible set of interviews, everyone who was undermining this special investigation the entire time, they have ensured that in the future, the president will feel incredibly emboldened to break the law. And that is a sad day for people who don't want a king in this country.
Well, don't worry, if it's a Democrat sitting in office, he will not be able to get away with breaking any laws or any type of criminal activity because Democrats actually do have standards, right? They actually do critique one another. They actually do hold one another accountable. And Republicans are ruthless. They're ruthless. Even when their perceived wrongdoing has absolutely no substance behind it. So this is where we're at as a country, and it makes me embarrassed to see the type of weak people represent, our party. It's sad.
The
anyway.
silver lining is that the whole country is just gonna burn up in a couple decades anyway.
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.